He is the architect extraordinaire in the area. He's also county councilman. He has his finger on the pulse completely of everything going on in the area. So we definitely thought he would be the good person to help us navigate this discussion this morning. So.
Thank you, Kathy. Councilman for about 6, 8 more weeks, maybe. My successor, Stella Mercado, is here as well, and I'm confident she's going to do a wonderful job. We've got a large panel this morning, and so we're going to try to move quickly so that we don't keep you here all morning. Each of these great panelists could probably spend a couple of hours really digging down and getting into the weeds. So we're going to give you sort of that 10,000-foot view of everything, hopefully. But again, with this collection of great people here, I think you're going to have a much better understanding of what's going on. In addition to Stella, we have Leigh Howitt, who's our representative for the area. He can tell us what's going on in Columbia, but more specifically, some interesting things that are happening in Georgetown. Keith Price, Superintendent of Education, Georgetown County Schools, and Mr. Tim Boyle, who's going to talk to us about how great the market's doing right now. Tiffany Harrison, Economic Development Director, and Kathy Besse is going to speak. And who am I forgetting?
Leigh.
Oh, Leigh Hope, of course. Forgive me. Okay. So I'm going to lead off with Leigh. A couple of quick questions I want to direct you to that you're welcome to speak about other things tangentially, but describe where we are with the port property. And for those of you that don't know, the port has agreed to sell to Georgetown County for a nominal sum the former port, which is a very significant property and significant acquisition. So that one first.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Can everybody see and hear me? Everybody?
You might want to stand up.
Okay. All right. Still trying to wake up, so sitting down was good. Good morning, everybody. Yes, the port property in Georgetown. Tiffany might be able to speak a little bit more to this than I can. Last year in the budget, I put a proviso because the State Ports Authority had no need for the property. They had no long-term plans for it. It was just going to sit there in perpetuity. And so I met with them over a several-year period. Thanks to a change in the city of Georgetown, who was kind of in opposition to it, I was able to get a proviso put in the budget that transfers the property to Georgetown County. Now it's being paid, Steve mentioned about being paid, it's being paid back, the money coming from it is coming from a fund that the state put for dredging in front of the port property and doing some improvements on it. So we're kind of using state money that they set aside to pay the state's ports authority property to give to Georgetown County. So that proviso is in there. That proviso is good until June 30th. I know Georgetown County is in the process of doing some due diligence, some environmental studies, some things like that, because certainly they don't want to take ownership of property and then all of a sudden go, whoops, we got environmental concerns. Chip, you understand what that is and the properties you deal with. So Tiffany might be able to speak more to where that is, but it's about 40 acres. Everybody knows where it's right in front of the steel mill. There's about 40 acres there. There's another 200-acre site that we're kind of going back and forth with the Ports Authority on. The intent was for it to transfer Ports Authorities, going through some easements and some things they have on that property to make sure they can transfer it. If not, they're going to make sure it's available for the county to use, unencumbered.
And the part that was the former port is how many acres?
It's a little over 40 acres, about 40.8 acres, something like that. So,
and it's my opinion that if we can obtain that property, that it could be transformative for the county, for the city, for the state, and then maybe long term we can obtain somehow do something different with redevelop the steel mill. So those things together could just change the face of everything around us. So
getting control is the key. So making sure the county's got control of what goes there. Then we can kind of start on the inside and work out from there.
All right, next question. This is a tough one too. There have been rumors that some in government in Horry County and some local citizens had some interest in annexing Garden City, most of which is in Georgetown County, into Horry County. And would you like to speak to the status of that?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure what the status is. I know there was a movement afoot from some residents. County people that moved out on Georgetown County. And their thought was, well, you gotta go into Horry County to get to that part of Georgetown County. Why don't we just annex it in? And the services would, be a little bit better. And it basically would be a windfall for Horry County because you've got about 650, 675 properties out there that are all 6% properties. So they're paying more money to the school districts. They're paying more accommodations tax. You look at the economic impact of that. On the reverse side of that, if you took away those dollars from Georgetown County, which Georgetown County is a tier 2, which is more of a lower tier county. I mean, I hate to say it's a county of have and have nots. And what that impact would have to the county and to the school district if you lost all of those houses and all those 6% properties. I mean, second homes and tourism is what drives our economy here in Georgetown County. I mean, I could ask everybody raise your hand if you were affected by tourism. It'd be everybody in the room, because that we all are, whether it's you and your business, and all the money comes in here. So Georgetown County's made some commitments. They're having some community meetings. They've had one. They're having another one end of October. They're spending some money through some CTC money that the state, we sent an additional $250 million to all the counties. So Georgetown County got about an additional $7 million. They're using about $1 million of that to pave some roads, improve some infrastructure, do some drainage issues out there. So hopefully the people in the Georgetown County residents that came to our first community meeting that you were there, they're like, well, we didn't know Georgetown County did all this. We were unaware. We just thought they just ignored us out here. So we've opened up the line of communications and things are getting better, and I feel confident moving forward, hopefully, that we won't have to deal with that issue.
Yeah. So, long story short, the county is trying to match up, at least match, if not exceed services and response. And so we're optimistic that everything's going to be fine, but it is a threat, and we need to pay attention to those kind of threats because it could greatly diminish our tax base. Leigh, anything else you want to add, or is that
No,
those are the
I mean,
two questions?
If those are the 2 questions, I'll sit down so you can move on.
Thank you so much.
Gamecock for
All right, I want to introduce Tiffany Harris now, and Tiffany's been with Georgetown County for about a year. She comes from Columbia and worked at the Department of Commerce, correct?
That's correct. Years ago.
So great with business and financial modeling. We've never had that in an economic developer before. Well connected with the state, obviously, and a real hustler when it comes to business opportunities in the county. So everybody that's worked with her has been enormously impressed. So what I would like you to do, Tiffany, if you don't mind, is just give us a quick update on economic development in general, but also challenges we have in terms of business recruitment in Georgetown County. And that might set the table then for Mr. Price.
Absolutely. Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I am pleased to be here. I'm 11 months on the job as of November 1st, so I'm just shy of 11 months. I'm thrilled to be in Georgetown County. I came to this county because I see the enormous potential here. The stage is set, and now it's how do we start to move forward to really start to capitalize on the opportunities that exist. The port property, no doubt, is like one of the largest and greatest opportunities, I think, for us moving forward. So let's talk a little bit just quickly about what are some of our opportunities, and then we'll talk about challenges. So from an economic development standpoint, there's kind of 3 legs to the stool, right? You look at your existing businesses in your area, and you make sure that they're healthy, and that you have a good program to be able to support your existing business and industry. My report back to you is we have a great existing business base here. We have a good mix. We have a very, very diverse economy when we come to our business mix. Now it's how do we create programs, how do we create support services, what are we doing to interact with those businesses to make sure that they have the tools to be successful. You guys are all businesses, most of you in this room, so you know that there are some real challenges right now that everybody's facing. How do we start working with you to start addressing some of those challenges? So from an existing business standpoint, great base, good diversity, that's a good message. We're in a good position from that standpoint. From a recruitment standpoint, it's all about what are we saying to the outside world? How are we talking about the assets of Georgetown County and encouraging new business and industry to locate here? And that's one option. That's one area we're working on as well. What is it? What is our value proposition? Why do you want to come to Georgetown County? Who is Georgetown County? What do we want to be? Where are we going? So we're working on framing that message right now, both externally and then also internally, as we're talking to our internal stakeholders. Who are we? What are we good at? What do we want to be? Where are we today? So a lot of that is some just really critical communication. Leigh, you mentioned the idea of just making sure that we're communicating. Education, outreach, conversations about what's really going on in the community. How do we work together? Because we're all in this to make sure that we've got a thriving Georgetown. So from that recruitment standpoint, one, we build the base inside, right? We make sure that we are all on the same page, we're delivering the same message. We craft that message, we tell the outside world, and then we recruit the businesses and industry that fit our community. I don't believe economic development is not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? It should be very targeted, and it should be about playing to your strengths and mitigating your weaknesses. So that's the plan that we're working on right now, is what are our strengths, and what are we best able, and who, and what types of industries are we best able to recruit. So working on that as well. The third leg of the economic development stool is all about product, right? So if we're trying to recruit business and industry to come into our area, where can we bring them? We have to have viable industrial parks and industrial sites as well as buildings. Our biggest challenge right now is we do not have any available industrial buildings. So we are working on that. The county has 3 industrial parks, one over off of Highway 521 in Andrews. That park is about 500 acres, has rail access. So it's a nice heavy industrial park. That's where Safe Rock is located. So that park is in a really good position to win. So we have been marketing that industrial park. We've got a couple of other announcements, as you guys will see in the coming months, about a couple of companies that are locating out there. And the idea is that we are also looking to build a speculative building with one of our partners, CNT Electric, so that we can have building product available in this market to bring new business and industry in, to increase the tax base, to be able to provide additional services, right? That's why we do what we do in economic development, is bringing in, creating wealth in the community, bringing in tax base, bringing in job opportunities so that we can create that wealth. The second industrial park that we have it's called Pennyroyal. It's over off of Pennyroyal Road, 1,000 acres. And what's really unique about this site is we have all the heavy infrastructure out there. And this site is barge accessible. It is one of the only sites in the southeast that has direct open water access of that size. And that is a true asset for us. So we're getting our arms around what types of companies do we need to be marketing for that site. So we're working on that right now in my office. And then one asset. And
there is a lot of interest in that site.
There is a lot of interest in that site. There absolutely is. It really is a very unique site, and that's what I've learned since I've been here. I'm learning all kinds of new terms. I'm from the center part of the state, so I'm learning about harbor silting and dredging and all of this. But what a wonderful opportunity. And then the last is we have a phenomenal airport. For those of you who have not been to the airport, go out there, check it out. There is a 6,000-foot runway at the Georgetown Airport. That's larger than the runway in Columbia and Litchfield. So impressive. I'm working with the airport director right now to come up with an economic development master plan for the airport so that we can start recruiting aviation-related companies there. The county owns a lot of property within the fence of the airport. We can't sell that property. We can do land leases, but we can build hangars. We can support aviation-related companies.
And something that business is interested in as well.
100%.
And the French company, I can't remember the name, there's a charter jet service now that's going to be, have an installation in Georgetown. So you too can charter your own jet and fly wherever you want to fly. So anyway, but they saw, it's significant that they saw enough demand potential in our area to offer that service. So.
I think my message to you all is the future's bright. I mean, just talking about the 3 legs of the stool, I mean, we really are in a great position to win in Georgetown. I think there's some work that needs to be done, right? There's always work to be done as we're trying to grow the community, from the planning side, from just being very deliberate and proactive about what we're doing and how we're trying to grow, and making sure that we're growing in a way that is really kind of fitting to the community here. We're a very unique community. Heard we're not Charleston, we're not Myrtle Beach, and we don't want to be those things. So then what are we, and how do we grow together and work together to achieve that common goal? Challenge. Do you want me to stop there?
Well, can you, in a minute or so, I want to leave time for other panels, few of the challenges?
Yes, that's, so I think the biggest challenge that we face right now is the fact that we are very small from a population standpoint. 67,000 people. Our workforce is 24,000. So our challenge when we talk to our existing industries and our existing businesses, every single company out there that we have talked to, they have jobs, high wage, skilled jobs available that they cannot fill. That is absolutely the largest challenge we have. And the fact that we are losing some population here, because think about that, and that is an enormous challenge. We're trying to make sure our businesses and industries can be successful. Workforce is the key to them being successful. If we don't have the workforce, then we're losing opportunities.
And as much as the neck has grown in the last several years, we've lost population in the western part of the county, western being just across the bridge. So we actually lost population in the last census period.
And I think there's some enormous opportunities on the workforce side, and I think Keith will probably talk a little bit about some of the partnerships.
And I've always viewed economic development as being the three-legged stool, but my three-legged stool was housing. We need housing. We need skilled workers and jobs, and we need a great education system. So with that, I'd love to introduce Keith again, and Keith would specifically like you to talk about initiatives that Georgetown County is engaged in, including the magnet school at Carver's Bay, which I think is great. And how do we meet the challenges of educating a better workforce and preparing our children and students for the future, where they don't have to go off to find a pathway to success. So.
Sure. Well, I didn't know what you were going to ask me to talk about, so I always want to be prepared. So I bought a presentation that only a part of it has to do with what you just asked me about. So I'm going to leave that there and refer to it for just a couple of slides. But thank you for the invitation, and it's always a pleasure to come out and meet
By the
new
way,
folks.
you might want to talk about the orange.
I'm going to get to that. Address that right off the bat, to address my orange blazer. Yes, I am a Clemson fan. I'm a Clemson grad. Go Tigers. That is not why I'm wearing orange today. Today is actually Anti-Bullying Day. And so we've got a district-wide anti-bullying initiative going on. There's going to be a parade downtown that starts at East Bay Park. It's going to go down Front Street. We've got several different school groups and community groups who are uniting together to try to stomp out bullying. And the recognized color for anti-bullying, orange. And I just happen to have a lot of it. So I'll take the opportunity to wear it today. But again, I appreciate the invitation to be here. I've been here a little longer than Tiffany. I came right in the middle of the pandemic. I started June 15th of 2020. The plan was for me to come in and kind of meet folks and get to know folks and officially take my position July 1. And when I showed up on June 15th, Dr. Dozier introduced me to the cabinet, and he said, I want to introduce you to your new superintendent. From this point forward, if you need any decisions, any approvals, he's your guy. I'm moving down the hall. I'll be there if you need me, but it's his. And said, so much for a 2-week transition. Off we go. And so the first thing we had to do on day one was start putting together a plan for re-entry, because schools had been closed since March. And we had to quickly come up with a plan to reopen for the new school year. So it was not your typical beginning of a superintendent experience, but we weathered that storm and happy to be here. So first up, let me go to the magnets, because we're really excited about this. And let me just do an escape and a scroll, and I can get straight to it.
It would help you, but I'd probably screw it up.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So, in taking a look at opportunities and challenges, and I know that was one of the questions for one of our earlier presenters, it didn't take me long to identify an area where we had some challenges and we needed some attention, and it was out in our Carver's Bay area schools, and we've got 5 schools out there. Plantersville Elementary, which I believe is the smallest school in South Carolina, that has under 100 students in it right now, but it's so isolated geographically that the travel distance to any other place is quite significant. Then we've got Browns Ferry and Pleasant Hill Elementaries, Carver's Bay Middle, and Carver's Bay High. And so we were talking and exploring ideas about what could we do, what could we introduce to help maintain students who live in that area from going someplace else, but maybe also attract students to that area. And the way schools and school districts are funded is largely driven by the number of students that you have. And so we talk about a shrinking population. The area of our district that is shrinking the most is that area. And then we also look at student achievement. In the area of our county where we've got the lowest student achievement is in that area. And then another part is trying to make sure that we grow diverse populations. And so when you look at where do we have demographic isolation, our largest isolation for minorities is in that area. So we were aware of some assistance opportunities that were provided by the U.S. Department of Education. And they're called Magnets, the Magnet Schools Assistance Program. And there's a descriptor here, you may have had a chance to take a look at this, as if what these grants are intended to serve and address. And all of these things that I just talked about is exactly what this grant is intended to address. So the overarching goals of this magnet are to increase enrollment, to decrease minority isolation, increase academic achievement, and decrease the opportunity gap. The opportunity gap, I talked about the way schools are funded. If you have a smaller student base, you have a smaller funding base, which means you have less opportunities to bring unique programs into those schools. So we applied, and 2 Fridays ago, while we were preparing, I think we were embracing Hurricane Ian, I got notified by the U.S. Department of Education that we were one of 19 recipients in America and one of only 2 in South Carolina who was awarded this MSAC grant valued at $14.99 million. We will have access to these funds for 5 years to bring unique programs into the school, the students in the schools in the Carvers Bay area. And I talked about why Carvers Bay. When you look at the total number of students, there are 4 attendance areas. You see that Carvers Bay overall is the smallest. When you look at the minority isolation, you see that with the 2 major categories of demographics in black and white, that Carvers Bay is our largest percentage of minority students. And then when you look at the poverty index at all of our 4 areas, Carvers Bay has the highest poverty index. The other piece that's not included in this chart is the academic achievement piece. And when you look at our 4 areas, Carvers Bay was the area that had the lowest with regards to academic achievement. So they were the perfect target for this grant. And so there's going to be some universal academic focus points to help drive up student achievement and to prepare students for college and career readiness. And in addition to that, there are going to be themes. So what's going to be different about these schools than maybe any other school? And so each principal worked with members of their faculty and members of their community, some key stakeholders, to come up with what they wanted to bring. What's going to be special about our school? So in addition to teaching the state standards, we're required by law to teach state standards, there's going to be an extra different feel when you go through this, and maybe an extra class or some extra things that we're going to be doing on how we learn math, reading, science, and social studies. So at Browns Ferry, they're going to focus on the creative and performing arts. Plantersville is going to be a digital immersion, so that we're going to be helping students become computer programmers and computer scientists. Pleasant Hill is going to be STREAM. You've heard of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Throw in an R for reading and an A for arts. So it's going to be a STEM on steroids type of program at Pleasant Hill. Then Carvers Bay is STEAM, which will be a continuation. Again, when you throw in the arts, you see that when you've got engineering, arts, and STEM, all of these students in these 3 elementary schools will now have a pathway that they can follow when they go into middle school. And then into high school, we've already had conversations with Georgetown Tech. And we're gonna build a pathway for students that if they want to, and they're willing to step up to the rigorous pathway, they can finish high school with a 2-year associate's degree in their pocket at absolutely no cost to them. So we're really excited about this pathway and what it's gonna bring. So that's the magnet piece to it. So we're really excited about it. We've got 2 orders of business that our liaisons at the U.S. Department of Ed have said, first thing you need to do is you need to hire your magnet director. And so that person will be someone who is paid for with this grant, who will come in, and their sole responsibility is the successful implementation of these programs at these five schools. So we posted that position 2 weeks ago. It closes this Friday. We will begin interviewing as soon as possible, and our hope is to take a name to our board for approval at our mid-November meeting. So as soon as we get that person on board, this will really take off. Second is there's a Magnet Directors planning conference that's in DC coming up. It's actually 2 days after we're going to hopefully hire this person. So I don't know if we'll be able to get them turned around, but a group of us are going up to make sure we take good notes and are ready to share when we come back. So we're really excited about this. There's all this excitement, like, yes, we got it, and that's like, now what do we do? So we got a lot of planning to do, and our goal is this first year is all about planning and preparation, and the plan is to launch these programs, these themes in August when we start our new school year. So really excited about that. And your second question.
Just in general, anything you want to add to initiatives that the district may be taking?
Thank you. Tiffany touched on it about pathways, and recruiting and retaining teachers is a challenge not only in Georgetown County but throughout South Carolina and the country right now. And so I think quality teachers is the #1 goal for producing quality students, and we're trying to do some unique things to recruit teachers to our area. This is a great place to live and to work, but challenges with housing. We've lost teachers who've lived in nearby areas or nearby counties who enjoy traveling to Georgetown County to work and to teach. But with inflation and gas prices, we've lost some folks because they said, I just simply can't afford the gas to drive in. And so housing availability, affordable housing, is also a challenge. And so if there were more options, then maybe we wouldn't have to have so many people commuting from far distances. So that's a challenge. But this past Friday, it was actually a seed that Tiffany planted through the group that we meet. It's, what's the name of the group?
What are they, Regional Workforce
Regional Workforce Development Group. So it's a combination of folks who are similar to you, who work in industry, and we said, hey, we've got all of these great opportunities that are right here that we're trying to find employees. And the misnomer is that if you want to be successful and find a good job, then after you graduate, you got to move someplace else. And we want to bust that myth to pieces. And so the first thing that we think we can do is spread the message about all of the options for employment that our students have. And so this past Friday, we had our first Educators in Industry Day. It was a day off for students this past Friday. But we identified groups of teachers from all of our middle and all of our high schools, and we spent a day going to visit local industry. We visited 6 Axis, which is commonly referred to as SAFERAC, out in Andrews. We visited International Paper. We visited HGTC to show how they are preparing students to go into these needed jobs, and then we wrapped up with a tour of Tidelands Health. And when you think of Tidelands Health, you immediately go to doctors or nurses. Well, there are so many other career paths and opportunities than doctors and nurses. And the types of skills that 6 Axis and International Paper are looking for, there are so many different types of jobs that people just don't know about, and our students don't know about it. So bringing our teachers in to see firsthand, hey, this is not an impossible task, or hey, this is so much more than I thought it was. Now they're able to go back, #1, to have conversations with their students about the opportunities that are available, really good opportunities that are available right here in Georgetown County, but then also here are the skills that they're looking for. They're not looking for you to make a perfect SAT or ACT score. What I heard time and time again while we were visiting these places is we want people who can solve problems, we want people who can work with a team, and we want people who can communicate either with customers or with coworkers to help make our industry successful. The skills, we'll teach you how to do that, but these are the things that we can embed in our educational experience to help our students be more college and career ready. So I'm sorry, I've been kind of long-winded.
No.
That's why I make a presentation, so I can stay on track.
Wonderful
Yes, sir.
presentation. And folks, those of you that are interested in the economic future of Georgetown County, this is where it begins. And so this is what we've got to work on and believe in and support. So at the most fundamental level. Well, thank you for that. Wonderful. Tim, I'm going to call on you next. You're a securities broker and in the securities business. Maybe I'm not styling you correctly, but I'd love for you to tell us about where you think the economy is, where you think things are going, and how it impacts upon us here in our community.
I've only got 75 slides. Good morning, I'm Tim Boyle. I'm with Edward Jones. I'm a financial advisor. This has been a challenging year, when we talk about the market. Have we been there before? Have we had the cost of gasoline up before? Yeah. Have airline tickets gone up? Yep. Yeah. Do we ever have midterm elections? Do we ever have presidential elections? Yeah, we've had a few. So, we've been there before, but right now we're in a, we all feel that there's, and folks like Eric who work with some of our clients, we're in an okay position because, there are different reasons for, the economic downturn. In my hokey little seesaw analogy, when stocks are up, bonds are down. When stocks go down, well, this year bonds are down as well. I won't get into too deep into the weeds, but inflation's real, as well as the federal interest rate. Last week we saw that inflation's still very high. The Fed's going to meet November 2nd and 3rd. They will raise interest rates again, so that's coming, maybe one more time this year. But again, folks, it's interesting because 18 months ago is more of, and I'm sorry about having my back to y'all. 18 months ago it was FOMO, the fear of missing out. There are all kinds of things that people heard about. I got to buy it. I don't care how high it is. It's going to go up. I got to buy it. Over the past year, it was, holy crap, how can I get out? And there were people who were, a lot of emotions, very emotional, saying, I can't go through what I did in 08 and 09, or the dot-com era. There are some similarities, but there are a lot of differences. A great example is banks. Banks are in a lot better position than they were with, Lehman Brothers and what happened with, the mortgage crisis, the housing. Banks have a lot of reserves now. That was implemented so that they can cover any kind of loan defaults, so that people, they're not filing for bankruptcy. Especially around here, employment, we can't find. Is there anyone really not trying to hire right now to find, quality employees? So, when we preach, folks should still have enough cash so that if something happened, they have a couple months of living expenses, so they're not having to tap into their retirement assets when it's down. Selling at a loss is never good. But, whenever there's a bear market, when it's down, it's always followed by a bull market. Bear markets are a lot shorter than bull markets. And as long as folks are, in a position where they can take risk or not, that they can weather the storm, the economy is actually, kind of good. Especially around here with Lachicotte Neck. People are still buying stuff. Tourists are still coming here. It's just, a lot of our data is lagging. So we can't look into the future, but, we've been here before, and we're going to come out of it better. And, as long as people are okay with staying the course, we're going to be good. A lot of retirees, that's...
Tim, give us a sense of timing. What crystal ball. I've got a friend who says, Confucius say, he who lived by crystal ball learned to walk on shattered glass. But what do you see in 23? Obviously, we're going to be slowing down, continue to slow down. We're a community that relies heavily on tourism, second home investor investors. We've got a large share of retirees. So in terms of impacts to our community and what we're gonna go through 23, maybe heading into 24, what are your expectations?
Sure, thank you. I wish I did have that crystal ball. What we're seeing and what we've seen, people are starting to slow down, maybe be a little bit more, they're using discretion with spending. During COVID, they said, man, I have this cruise ticket, I've got a plane ticket, I'm gonna go no matter what. They are being a little bit more cautious now. They're going to maybe Aldi versus another name brand store. I won't incriminate, they're not buying filet mignon, they're maybe buying, 80-20 hamburger. So they are scaling back a little bit, just being cautious. Over the next, year, 18 months, there could still be some volatility, again, with midterm elections. Real estate's a great example. People now, a year ago, I got my briefcase full of cash. I don't care if I pay a 25% premium, I gotta have it. Now they're just being a little bit more judicious. They're saying, do I need the third, beachfront property? Do I hold off on the 7% mortgage? And it's emotional. People need to take emotions out of either a business decision or what's gonna be good in the next year or the next 20 years. And that's where, we're encouraging, I know in the mortgage industry, real estate, we've seen it before, it's gonna come back and even better before. I can't give you an answer, but, where we are, we've always gone, back to where we were and
But with the Fed tightening, you would expect we are going to continue to slow into 23.
That's most likely.
Right.
And until inflation stops and goes down, the Fed, they've telegraphed it, we need to see pain, whatever that means to individuals, we have to see pain before it's gonna get better. And that, again, I don't wanna talk about the media, but, people can mediatize anything and just create a lot of emotion, and it can always be good emotion.
But long-term, the outlook is positive, so don't despair,
Absolutely.
guys. Just feelings of pain. Well, that's a great way to segue into where the mortgage industry is. So, Leigh, I would love for you to talk to what you're sensing out there in the marketplace with mortgage lending and mortgages, and how your prospective clientele are responding to that, reacting to that.
Yes. Hello, I'm Leigh Hope, and I have done mortgages for 30-something years now. And probably like most of y'all, who remembers when mortgage rates were 18, 19%? I mean, so it's kind of, Tim kind of summed it up. We've been there before. We've, this is kind of a blip, but it hurts. Kathy, when she asked me to speak, I was like, oh, what do I talk about? It's all kind of negative, but it's not negative. It is, but it's not. I actually have some handouts over there, but I'll just give them out later. I mean, really, for the national average of mortgage rates is 7.5%. And last year, it was crazy, y'all. I mean, we couldn't, I think Troy has a 1% mortgage, or 1.5. I think she was probably one of my lowest out there. So, and that's insane. I mean, it was insane. My daughter was able to buy a house last year at 3%. And to just put it in perspective today, it would be 7. And so that's what I feel bad about for our area, is like the millennials, how they're gonna afford to buy a house. There is products out there that you can be a co-buyer with your child, but I feel bad for the young kids. That's gonna hurt them. We are still seeing a ton of people buying second homes, buying investments. That's not, even though it's 7%, it's not, wouldn't you say it's still strong. I still feel good about it. The one thing I do worry about is a lot of the banks don't want to do mortgages right now. And I'm a mortgage broker, so that means I have like 40 to 50 banks, and I know which ones not to go to. The big banks, they got in trouble back in 2008. And so people just need to be careful. I had a friend the other day that told me her daughter got an 8% rate. The rates are not in the 8s yet. I mean, they're still 6.75, so just be wary, because people, they're gonna give higher rates because they just don't want to lend. So, and then I'm worried about friends of mine in the industry. They're laying off underwriters. I mean,
So that's the bad part. But there is good out there. 7% is not bad. And another thing that's happening is new products are coming out. So y'all probably all saw the Big Short, where people were stated income, stated assets. All you had to have was polls. Nowadays, at least you have to have good credit. So stay on top of your credit. Credit is king. But it has gone back to basically a stated income program. We do now have programs where as long as you have good credit, you can put 10% down. You do not have to show tax returns. You don't have to have pay stubs. So that's a little bit scary for someone who's been in the industry that long. But there are, and in our area, what I see is we need more homes. We definitely need more affordable. But it is a good opportunity to buy investment properties right now because the young people or people coming in, they need something to rent. So the people who can't buy, I would encourage if anybody has money they want to take out of the stock market, to buy investment property. And there's a new product out there now that is called a DSCR, and it's basically based on the house. So if you find a house and it has great rental income, you don't have to provide tax returns or anything. It's just totally based off that investment house. So we do have, I have customers in their 30s and 40s that's how they're building their retirement, is getting 5 or 6 rental properties, Airbnb properties, long-term rentals. So I would encourage to pick up real estate right now. It's still a great time.
Is the rate still the same on a DSCR?
It's about 7.99, closer to 8, but that's because it's investment property. And basically it's based off the property alone. You don't even have to provide tax returns. So that's not a bad rate. I mean, my first house was 12%, and I was like, thank you.
So you don't show like personal income or anything, it's based all on the house?
Based all on the house.
That's nice.
And I've got some handouts. I'm sorry I got stuck over here. My stuff was over there. But happy to,
That's cool.
When you can email it to everybody.
yeah.
Good. Very good. Well, all roads again point to education, housing. Those are the 2 legs of the 3-legged stool. So we've got some challenges. And something you may not be aware, but in this, on the Waccamaw Neck, as of a couple of years ago, per a study we had done, only 2 to 3% of the Waccamaw Neck remains to be developed. So the opportunities for doing more housing are going to be limited. We're going to have to look at redevelopment on the neck. And once again, hopefully more opportunity will arise in the western part of the county, particularly for affordable. But so those are just things to keep in mind as we go forward. And you think about land planning and land use and all of those kinds of things. I'd like to, I'm going to bring Stella up for just a minute too, but before I do that, I would like to get Kathy Besse. You've heard it from the guy in the market speak. Tim, he gave a great presentation, and Leigh's talked about mortgages. So what are you seeing on the ground? This all trickles down, of course.
Yes, in the trenches.
What's the reality on the ground in terms of real estate? And Leigh is a real estate professional.
So I'm Kathy Besse with
Kathy,
the Litchfield
right.
Company, that's okay. And everything everybody has touched on is all relates to real estate, of course. And there are some challenges. I like to say that we really are kind of almost back to a normal market right now. I mean, we saw so much kind of craziness because of COVID. Everybody decided we've got to have that second home. We've got to have somewhere near the beach. We've got to be in a different place where if we're quarantined, we can enjoy ourselves. If we're going to work at home, we can enjoy ourselves. And that continues because the marketplace of working has changed. And people are still working at home. They're working remotely. They're, living in Pawleys Island, but they work for a company in Indiana. So there has been a whole change in mindset with regards to real estate. So we went from this, crazy, like last year was just insane. I mean, everybody was just constant, to the market changing And it's just kind of normal now. I mean, the transactions are less, the pricing is flat, it hasn't reduced a lot. We're still seeing, sales happening at close to or still listing price. So we're not seeing a huge decline in that. Challenges, inventory, land, you know, and enough homes built to set and get to the point where we have people that want them. We still have the buyers, but we are still lacking inventory. As of right now, we have 2 months supply inventory on hand in the Wacomonac. So that's not a lot of inventory.
What's the healthy datum? If you had a normal market, weren't so depleted, what would you like to see?
Well, unfortunately, for years now, we've been at a huge inventory loss. I mean, it's been millions of units below nationally what we should have. But normally, back when I first started real estate, it was probably 8 to 12 months supply of inventory on hand. So we're really at a huge.
So 2 months is,
inventory loss.
in other words, 2 months is a very depleted inventory.
Absolutely.
Very limited opportunities and choices.
And
So-
that's nationally too, but here, so that's really, we're lower also because of the limited additional land to develop. And like you said, we're gonna have to do some redevelopment with the land plan, looking at it very strategically and seeing how we can redevelop land here in our area to accommodate the need. I mean, we still have buyers. Every realtor in this room right now that's sitting here, we all have buyers. So the market is not flat, it's not declined. We still have people that are wanting to move here from out of the area. We have people that are investors. We have people looking for second homes. We have people looking for year-round homes. Inventory is probably our biggest challenge. Affordability would be another challenge, just because the prices went up so drastically in '21. And we're seeing that change slightly, but everything that I looked at, in, you know, just kind of preparation for looking here, the price, from list price that we're still seeing is 98% on average. If it's listed at, you know, 500,000, you're still getting 98% of that list price, the seller is. So, buyers obviously have some challenges with regards to, interest rates now and everything, but we still have a lot of cash buyers out there too. So it really is, it's not all doom and gloom like the media portrays it
Is
to
2 months
be.
the lowest it's been? Has it been lower?
Actually, no,
previously?
it was lower in
Okay.
'21, so it's actually come up a little bit for us,
Okay.
which is good.
Wall Street did an article earlier this year, but there was demand at that point in time for 8 million new residences across the country. And, you know, the problem is building costs, the development costs for land and getting water, sewer, all that stuff in is up there, so there's huge demand. But, you know, there are these headwinds now, costs, lack of inventory.
Yeah.
Lack of inventory because cost, land, all those
Right.
things, so it's a,
We had
It's
5
taken-
months supply as on the average in 20.
Okay.
21, it went down to 1.5 months supply, and
Right.
now we're up at like 2.2 months supply.
Do you think it's, I've heard it's the millennial generation, quote unquote millennial generation's coming to a house buying age.
Absolutely, that was a lot of 21, surprisingly, was a lot of millennials, for the year round. They finally were at that point where, and they're a lot of the ones that were getting these remote jobs. So they're like, gosh, well, I'm gonna go ahead and buy a place somewhere and then work.
their
You
buying
know,
plans were
Midwest.
stunted by the Great Recession, so they were kind of late to get into
Exactly.
the market. But as they come into the market and buy entry-level homes, that, you got the move-ups, and so
Yes,
it's the conveyor belt doesn't work,
yeah.
and it got stymied for a while.
Yeah, I definitely, and just hearing this panel and hearing everything that you all say, I mean, there definitely needs to be, you know, the real estate industry, the mortgage industry, I mean, we all need to be talking all the time on how do we work together to solve the land problems and strategically working through that. I mean, it's huge, just, you know, all the way down to education, like you said. And I think that doesn't happen all the time necessarily. I mean, we're all trying to solve the same problems.
Sure,
So,
And we're small enough to be
Housing.
able to do that.
Absolutely.
Small enough community to do that.
Housing,
Definitely.
education, jobs, those are the three things that allow a community to grow, and they have to all happen together.
yes.
You can't have just one and not the other. It's the three-legged stool. So as part of the business community here, we need to support the efforts of all of our leadership and be dialed in and help facilitate all of their good work. So I want to thank our panel and appreciate it very much. I also want to bring up, just as a closing out, my successor, Stella Mercado. She's she's had the luxury of not having an opponent. So
Benefit.
if this were a normal campaign, she would be still running her butt off, going door to door trying to get votes. But she was, per the primary, really, when you announced almost, you were in.
We got out ahead, did some fundraising. which was
So that's
good,
given her the opportunity to get focused, do some planning, and it's given our administrator the opportunity to get her oriented, and also, I think she's gonna come in really completely ready to take charge. But anything you wanna say, Stella?
I want to say one thing, and there's a lot of, and specifically on the neck, there's a lot of not in my backyard, and now it's filtering into the western part of the county. I'm gonna need your help. So it can't be the loudest group that's coming to every meeting. All I would ask is that when I have that call to action, which I will, that you guys do show up to help talk about everything that we've talked about, which certain population groups maybe don't care as much about. We have, I think, kind of, Keith and I were talking about it, our demographic is kind of like an hourglass, right? So we have the kids that are coming in, they leave, working, which Tiffany talked about is skinny, and then we have the retirement part. To have a healthy community, we need to have like straight up and down. So we have to do a better job, this group and all of us here, to kind of make that not be an hourglass anymore. And that's gonna require some, I already know, some pretty hard decisions. But in part of making those decisions, I need community help. And Clint's not here, but we're coming in together, both of us are uncontested, and we have a lot of the same issues. We know what the issues are with not just the county, but with all of you. And we're gonna have some call to action, so we need you guys to come and show up at some of those county council meetings and planning commission meetings. You hear about it in the newspaper. I really need the business community to show up. So that's what I will say on that, because all of this ties into everything that we're talking about. Keith will not be successful. No one here will be successful if we don't have that call to action at county council. So help us make better decisions by showing up.
What's the best way to find out about the meeting?
So there's 2 meetings a month on Tuesdays. I have 2 Facebooks, my personal and my county council meeting. I'll make sure that I wanna be as transparent as possible. So I'm gonna use, as much social media as I can. I don't really use Twitter. But if you guys tell me, I went to Pawleys Island Civic Club, they have an app called Band, so I went ahead and joined that, and I'm posting stuff already on there. So if you tell me something that you want me to post on or whatever, I'll put it on that.
What is your Facebook page name?
I think it's Stella for county council.
Okay.
I'll double check. But I'll even post on, I don't care, like, to me, so I didn't even have social media a few years ago because I was in the federal contracting world, but it's needed, but we do need, and I'll put as much as I can on that page. It's on the county website. I came from IT, the website is got a little bit better, but it could be a lot better.
Yes.
So that's something that I'm gonna be, I haven't met with MIS yet, but I'm gonna try to work with Angela on to see if we can push that forward. I saw a hand go up somewhere.
Stella, I was just gonna mention, the county actually has a wonderful subscription service on
Yes.
the website where
Yes.
you can subscribe to know about every county council meeting, planning commission meeting. Just go there and click what interests you. and
That's a
you will
good
get an
point.
email every time they meet or if there's a change in the meeting date.
And the agendas are attached,
And they
so
do
you
a
can
live,
click on the agenda.
isn't there a live feed?
There are live feed, there's a
Yeah.
YouTube site, I actually wanna kind of bulk that up. I think, there needs to be YouTube, like lessons from the county on permitting, on a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I'm not the administrator, but I think that there's a lot of things that the county can be doing to be more proactive. And obviously, they're coming off of the pandemic, which is, in and of itself, has been a challenge. The hack, which has been a challenge. But I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I will say that, and I don't want to speak for Clint, but in general, we're coming in kind of together because we were both uncontested, so we're able to have a lot of meetings together with all the department heads. Tiffany, we met with Tiffany, and I'm super excited for the opportunity with the port, I mean, with education. I think, to me, education is like bar none for everything. You know, when people are looking for, when we talk about that hourglass and with that skinny part, those are the people that are working that have kids. Well, what do they care about? Schools. So we've got to get our schools, you know, we've got a small demographic, it's less than 10,000 kids in our county. We've got to, that's got to grow so that we can build everything else. And we're really lucky. I mean, we are sandwiched between Horry and Charleston, and there's some of that coming in, but there's a lot coming from everywhere else. So I think we have a lot of opportunity here, and there's a lot of resources that we have that I think haven't been marketed at all, and there's a lot of opportunity. But I will say that at those call to actions, I need you guys there. So
And to add to that.
he knows it
really,
more than I do.
It can be awfully lonely up on the dais if you've got to take a hard vote that you know is in the best interest for the county, best interest for business and economic growth, and the community in general. But if you've got a room of, sometimes it's not that many, but 15, 20, 30 people can be very noisy. And you've got an interest group there expressing their point of view, very few others offering a counterpoint of view or commenting. It's pretty lonely up there on the dais.
And I know, I will also say that it's not just physically being there, although that's important, but having maybe a couple of spokespeople that are willing to come up and speak on behalf of the community, but also, you know, writing editorials in the Observer. Like, you know, I think everyone, I'm pretty sure everyone spoke on affordable housing. I don't think I've seen very many editorials on affordable housing. What is affordable housing? Because there's a lot of different opinions about what affordable housing is. There's a lot of words, and there's also a lot of different price points, depending on where you live. So, I mean, it'd be great to hear from, you know, the real estate community on what does affordable housing even mean.
So, I would just to continue and didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's
Kathy.
okay.
I just wanted to add, this doesn't mean you have to show up at every single
Right.
planning commission meeting or every single county council meeting. But I hope there'd be some dialogue with your director, Kim, and she could alert people, plus you could follow Stella. But there are going to be key moments. You know, who knows how many, but maybe, you know, one a quarter, one every 6 months, where it would be helpful to have some representatives from the business community there expressing your point of view, because when we're up on the dais, never mind what my vote might be, those other council people are listening to the community and they think that is what the community as a whole wants. And they believe that's the mainstream thought.
I would just interject real quickly too, if you haven't ever been to one of the county council meetings, you should attend it in person. I mean, it's very, very contentious, and the people that are opposing the development are very, very vocal. And like they said, I can't imagine sitting up there on the stage in that instance, because I've been on the side of the development, And when they say, well, who here is even for the development? Me and one other person went like this, the developer, and it was like, oh God, we're
But
gonna
it
get.
shouldn't, and that's, I think that's part of the problem, is it shouldn't be like that.
Exactly.
Right, so it shouldn't be like, oh, that's
Right.
me, you know, it can't
Yeah.
be. We have a community, we all have to work together, and we all know the groups, and I'm willing to work with them. You know, I'm not saying we all want to keep it pretty, you know, we don't want to be Myrtle Vegas, as I've said many times. We don't want to be Mount Pleasant, you know, but we do need some smart development. We do need to, we have a revenue gap in the county, you know, we've got, most of it's obviously coming from the neck. We need to do some economic development on the western part of it. So when there's things that come up for the western part of the community, I'm shocked sometimes when it's voted against. I'm stunned, and a lot of it's sometimes affordable housing. So, you know, we're gonna need help, is all I'm saying. So when that comes up, whoever I need to talk to, I'll send it to Kim, because I know Kim, but, you know, it's not gonna be at every meeting, but it might be 1 or 2 a year, where I'm like, get here early and sign up to speak.
And you touch on, it's really the second meeting.
Yeah.
Is public input.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, there's, you know.
I just wanted to tag into what you were saying, for those of us that get kind of wrapped up in our job sometimes and don't hear about what's going on.
Yes.
If you could send, this is what's coming up to the meeting next Tuesday through
Yeah.
a website that we all get.
I will do, like, if there's a group chat, if you guys, whatever,
Just an email from
yes.
Hilba.
Yeah, we
I
can
can
send
see
it
it,
out
and
on.
Okay.
I'd be happy for that.
Cause I mean, I just sold my business, I know when you're in it, you're
Well, then you
inundated.
hear about it after it
Right,
happens. You think,
right.
oh, I wish I would've known, I
Right.
would've gone to that. So
I will definitely make an effort to put it out there way ahead.
that'd
And
be
listen,
great.
I've got little kids, like, everybody's slammed. I mean, the people that are in this group are the busiest. All I'm saying is when that call happens, you know, and I will make sure there's enough time. So.
This coming Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Chip Abernathy has a little bit of a dog in that hunt.
Is that the second one or the first one?
Second one.
Yeah, that would be great.
What's the issue there?
And I will say this, you know, I don't know what the timing is, but get there early because there's a limited amount of seats. And I also think he said that it's not just about physically being there, you know, we need some speakers. The more speakers they are, the less time they have. So, the buzzer goes off. And fortunately, like I said, I've been able to go to a lot of county council meetings, so it's kind of interesting to learn the process and what you can do. But, you know, that site has been up like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's the county-owned site on Pettigrew.
And I wanna say something that I found out, in one of my meetings with, a department head. You know, we have all these people all the companies that provide tax base, right? Everybody knows IP, you know what, does anybody know, Chip might, so don't answer, just to give it a guess, but does anybody know what the 4th business is that contributes to the tax base?
The most.
Yeah, in our county, you can't answer either.
Tourism?
No, an actual business,
Oh.
an actual business.
No, they're already up there.
Yeah, they're like 2 or 3. Anybody have a guess? Waterleaf. Waterleaf,
Start to say, you might know.
the apartment complex.
Rural limit?
Yeah. Why? Because it's rentals, 6%, and there's a lot of them. Now, I'm not saying that's all we want here, but there's a couple things that blew my mind about that when I saw it on a spreadsheet. First of all, I was stunned. Second of all, that's a problem, because it should be businesses at the top, right? We need more businesses here. So I'm super thankful for you being here and for like all the talent that you bring to the table. So that just is, out of all my meetings, that's something that stuck out a lot. So anyways, I'll step back.
Well said, and I think we ought to give her a round of applause. Obviously, and it's favorite applause for these great panelists. So we appreciate your time and all that you said.
Can I do a quick commercial before we wind up?
Sure, please.
Housing has been something that has been talked about all morning. There is a public-private group called the Economic Development Alliance for Georgetown. I am actually the executive director of that group, that's public-private. We had a group of CEOs meet back in April, and we asked them, tell us the good, the bad, the ugly. And there were 5 recommendations that came out of that group. Number 1 was housing. So in September at the board meeting, the Alliance created a housing task force. Ray Gagnon is over that. So I would love to be able to share that information with this group. Please get involved. This is all about trying to figure out how do we have the right mix of housing here. The first task is to really determine where we have the infrastructure and where we have the appropriate zoning. But then it's about bringing everybody to the table and start talking about how we can come up with some solutions. So that's my commercial, and I'll sit down. Thank you all.
Once again, thank you. I encourage you to continue to network if you want to. Some of you probably need to bound out and get to your jobs.
Just another quick commercial. It's our Festival of Wreaths. This is our 5th annual Festival of Wreaths, which is November 15th through the 17th. Our location is the old Mercado building on Pettigrew, which will soon be a brewery that Josh Quigley is going to be putting in there. So in between his building his brewery and Stella wrapping up, we're going to infiltrate that with wreaths. So if you want to donate a wreath, please do. The flyers are around the table. Pick some up. The deadline for wreaths is November 11th. And if you have any questions, please just give me a call or shoot us an email. And thank you all so much for coming. This was such a great group of folks. And speakers, your food is up there. Thank you.
So good to meet you. I would give you, yes, please include me.